Hey guys, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. My name is The Lady Designer, and today we are back with another Cities Skylines 2 Dev Diary. And in today's video, we are going to take a deep dive into everything we know so far about the exciting topic public and cargo transportation. There is new information about Cities Skylines 2 dropping every week on Monday, so definitely make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date for new information about the game. And of course, stay tuned for lots of gameplay with Cities Skylines 2 when the game drops later this year. We will first watch the Dev Diary video, and then we will go over all extra information and screenshots that dropped next to this video. But before we jump into it, I would love to thank our fantastic sponsor of the channel, Instant Gaming, because at Instant Gaming you can get many of your most favorite games like Cities Skylines 1, Planet Zoo, The Sims, Jurassic World Evolution, Prehistoric Kingdom, Farming Simulator, and many other awesome games with a really good discount. And not only that, you can also already pre-order Cities Skylines 2 with a really great discount via their website. And by buying via their website, you will get a great discount and you will also be supporting the channel. I will make sure to put a link to their website in the description of this video and in the pinned message of the comment section so you can easily find it. Now, without further talking, let's go and check out the Dev Diary about public and cargo transportation.
Transport networks set the rhythm of life in your city. As they move people and cargo, they can create harmony and discord. This finely tuned orchestra of ships, vehicles, planes, and trains is yours to conduct. To create a thriving metropolis, maintain a steady beat to keep your city in motion. You build a city from scratch in Cities Skylines 2. No public transport, no tracks, no runways. Creating these and other transportation networks is a crucial first step. After that, improving and integrating them paves the way for expansion. When you establish your city, citizens can take the bus or a taxi to get where they're going. These are the first transport options you'll unlock. They're reliable, cheap, and easy to route here, there, and everywhere. Traffic conditions are their Achilles heel. It's no big deal in a new metropolis, but it is for a growing city. That's when you'll level up your public transport. Think trains, trams, and subways. Each one has pros and cons. They're all expensive to build and complicated, requiring depots, tracks, and stops where passengers can buy tickets and get on and off. That means they can't offer the far-reaching service of a bus line or the door-to-door service of a taxi. On the other hand, they're more efficient, not least because they carry more people and cargo and reduce road congestion. Let's start with subways. They're fast, high capacity, and they take up very little room when they're underground. If they operate above ground, you can run them on elevated tracks so they don't get tangled up with road traffic. Trams. They're more flexible than trains, so you can more easily add lines to service new and expanded neighborhoods. Build tram tracks on existing roads, or run them on dedicated tracks if that's the best way to keep the hustle and bustle dialed up. Trains carry loads of people too, and not just suburbanites. They can bring visitors from outside your city in large numbers. Trains play another critical role as cargo transport. Build a cargo train terminal, and you build a hub where businesses can receive, ship, and store incoming and outgoing goods. Water transportation is another option for passenger travel and moving cargo. It's another high-capacity network, though water transport's real potential lies in imports and exports. You see, cargo ships might be slower than trains, but these bad boys can carry 1,000 tons of stuff to and from your city. Yeah, that's right. You can trade with other cities. So you'll need somewhere to house all the goods and resources coming and going. Easy. Like cargo train terminals, cargo harbors double as cargo storage facilities. Like all of the other networks, air transportation has drawbacks. Planes carry fewer passengers and less cargo than ships and trains. Airports are also astronomically expensive and have the footprint of a small town. However, air transport has a pretty irresistible advantage: speed. Plus, planes won't add to road congestion. They don't follow a rigid track, and they make outside connections incredibly easy. The transport mix in your city will become complex and intricate. Use the transportation overview to review passenger and cargo transportation networks separately. Filter again by transport type to see high-level details about individual lines and toggle them on or off. Use the transportation info view to understand the impact of your networks. Plan and manage transportation networks carefully to find the right tempo for the movement of people and cargo. Conduct it perfectly, and every citizen, trader, and tourist will march your city toward greatness.
So definitely a super interesting topic if you ask me, public and cargo transportation. So let's go over all the extra information that we got with this dev diary. So as your city grows and you will add more public transportation systems throughout your city, your citizens can be transported by buses and taxis. And as your city grows, you will be able to invest in other transportation systems such as the tram and the subway networks. Passenger trains can also serve local traffic if you are willing to sacrifice building space for the large train stations. So buses, trains, ships, and airplanes transport passengers between cities, bringing new citizens and tourists to your city. Buses use road connections, while trains need to be connected between the city and the existing train infrastructure on the map. And ships are particularly useful on maps with large open waters connected to the edge of the map, while airplanes connect the city to the rest of the world through an airport. Transportation also includes cargo transport, where companies order resources through delivery trucks and vans. So to support the local industries and commercial companies, you can set up cargo lines using trains, ships, and airplanes that, in conjunction with trucks, keep the industry's wheels turning. So let's talk about the public transportation types. Buses unlock first and form the backbone of the city's public transport network in the early game. They are tried and a true method, cheap and flexible, even though they are very much affected by the traffic conditions of the city. Buses require the bus depot for periodic maintenance and come in two flavors: the fuel-operated buses and electric buses. To use electric buses in your city, you will need to update the bus depot to maintain them. So in addition to serving the populace locally, buses can also transport passengers from outside connections, and you are able to create intercity bus lines once you build the bus depot. Intercity buses can stop at the bus station, or they can drop off and pick up passengers from one or more regular bus stops, which is really cool. I really do love it that we can have outside connections and add intercity buses. Absolutely love that feature. So you can pretty much place either a bus stop sign or shelter on a road to determine where buses should pick up and drop off passengers. So taxis are a staple in most cities, and that is also true in Cities Skylines too. Like, taxis operate on a similar logic to personal vehicles, able to transport passengers to where they need to go. And in the early game, taxis also bring new citizens to the city who don't have their own personal vehicles. Taxis are an extremely flexible public transport option, as they don't require lines to operate. However, they are low capacity, contribute to the city's traffic congestion, and are also held back by it. So you can simply add a taxi depot to your city to provide citizens with taxi services. Taxis require the taxi depot for maintenance, but before upgrading the taxi depot, taxis can only pick up passengers from the taxi stand. With the dispatch center upgrade, there are no limits for picking up fares in the city. The taxi service can be expanded by replacing some taxis with electric taxis, reducing noise and air pollution caused by the service. This is done by upgrading the taxi depot to also support electric taxis. Trains carry a large amount of passengers and cargo, and while their infrastructure size makes them better suited for intercity transport, they can be used locally as well. To create train lines, you will need to build a rail yard, which sends out and maintains your trains and connects it to the track. Trains naturally require tracks to run on, and building a train infrastructure is a high initial expense, but due to their transport capacities, they more than make up for the initial costs over time. So yeah, so far it doesn't matter what you're going to build, buses, trains, taxis, you will need like this depot for maintenance, and you will be able to like upgrade these depot buildings to get extra options or to get like extra services, which I do really like. I like that you just not plop down a taxi depot, for example, or like a rail yard, and then we'll have all the options. You still have things to add upon to later on. So the rail yard provides your city with both passenger and cargo trains. Train infrastructure allows you to create two-way and double tracks, as well as one-way train tracks, elevated tracks, bridges, tunnels, and a cut and fill tracks running lower than the ground level. Trains and other rail transports are able to drive backwards and forwards, and thus they can utilize track switches created by combining two-way and double train tracks. Stations also feature pre-built tracks which create track switches automatically when tracks are connected to them, regardless of the track type. Train stations can be upgraded with the additional platforms and connected to other forms of public transportation. A tram is a relatively flexible light rail option when expanding the public transportation network in the growing city. Tram tracks can utilize already built roads by adding tram tracks to them using the replace tool, or the tracks can be built separately running on the terrain and thus bypassing other traffic altogether. You can run tram lines on roads or a dedicated network. A tram depot, which sends out and maintains the tram fleet, is required to set up a tram network. The initial cost of a tram network is higher than setting up a fleet of buses, but the upside is that trams are quiet and do not pollute the air. Trams can be built in the same manner as roads and train tracks, so they feature one-way tracks and double tram tracks and can be built as elevated tracks, bridges, cut and fill tracks, and tunnels. The subway is a fast, high-capacity local public transport option. The initial investment in the rapid transit infrastructure is high, but due to its speed, it is a popular transport choice for many citizens who value their time when making pathfinding calculations. While the subway can be built above ground and even on elevated tracks, its biggest draw is how little room it takes up when building underground. The underground stop entrance itself is quite compact. They fit nicely between the other buildings without taking up too much space. An underground subway station doesn't require much space and can easily fit between buildings. Similar to trains, the subway requires a subway yard to supply trains for the lines. Subway uses exclusive tracks, and passengers can access the trains from underground and overground stations. And like the other types of rail, you can build double subway tracks and one-way tracks with options for elevated and cut and fill tracks, as well as bridges and tunnels. Water transportation features both passenger and cargo options. Ships can transport a high number of passengers both inside the city and to and from outside connections. Intercity water transport requires access to the map edges by seaways and connecting the harbors to the seaways. A passenger harbor is a great addition to any waterfront city. Air transportation is a fast intercity option for both passengers and cargo. The planes carry relatively small amounts of passengers and cargo compared to the ships and trains, but what they lose in capacity, they make up for in speed. Airports require a large amount of room to be built. The international airport being the size of a small town. Depending on how many air transport lines are created, they can also generate a lot of traffic between the city and the airport. When placing an airport, you can see the projected landing and take-off zones at the end of the building, giving you an approximation of where limitations to zoned building heights are applied. Airports limit the height of buildings in the landing landing and takeoff zones to avoid collisions. Air transport lines don't require any additional infrastructure other than the airports themselves. The airports are connected to the outside connections with the line tool, and the airplanes start traveling on the lines once they are created. So now let's talk about cargo types. In addition to delivery trucks and vans, cargo trains are the backbone of resource transportation on land. Once a cargo train terminal is built, companies can use it as a storage point from incoming and outgoing cargo. Even with no cargo lines, companies ordering resources can use the station storage facilities to drop off and pick up resources and goods, the facility working like a distribution center. To start receiving cargo trains, you will need to set up a cargo train line similar to how passenger train lines work. Trains can haul resources from outside connections to the terminal when they are stored until local delivery trucks pick them up for distribution within the city. Similarly, companies send their goods to the terminal as it is cheaper and faster to ship goods on trains than to haul them to the outside connection by trucks. A cargo train terminal can not only ship resources efficiently, but it can store and distribute them to your city's industry buildings. Due to the large amount of resources being transported to and from the terminal, it can generate a lot of truck traffic. Therefore, it is crucial to prioritize the road connections to the terminal to avoid any traffic jams. So, cargo ships can carry a huge amount of cargo, 1,000 tons. They are slower than trains, but they are not held back by high traffic on the roads. Cargo harbors can also store resources and goods to be further distributed, similar to cargo train terminals. Cargo harbors also generate a lot of traffic as delivery vehicles offload the cargo ships and carry the resources into the city. Furthermore, the cargo harbor can be enhanced with a railway connection, allowing trains to transport cargo directly to and from the harbor. So the cargo harbor can be upgraded with a railway connection to connect it with other parts of your city, and it's definitely a really good thing to keep in mind that you put down things logically and making sure that you're avoiding any traffic jams with your truck traffic, which was also quite a challenge in Cities Skylines 1, I remember. So I'm definitely excited to see how this will go in Cities Skylines 2. Air cargo transport becomes available when the airport is upgraded with a cargo terminal, which adds an additional terminal exclusively for cargo transport where cargo planes can pick up and offload their cargo. Compared to the cargo trains and ships, cargo airplanes are relatively low capacity, but they are one of the fastest options available and not impacted by traffic in the city or reliant on available waterways. So you can just simply upgrade your airport and connect the cargo terminal to the outside connections to be able to import and transport goods, which I actually find super interesting, and I love it that they added this extra transportation feature and cargo feature with the airports. So let's talk about new gameplay with transportation lines. In Cities Skylines 1, only buses, taxis, and trams had depots. Trains and subway trains spawned directly from the stations once a line was created. In Cities Skylines 2, each land-based public transportation type has a depot or yard where the vehicles are spawned and where their maintenance takes place. Each depot can support a predetermined number of vehicles, and this can be extended with suitable building upgrades. The line tool functionality has been standardized to provide a more simple gameplay loop between all the different transportation options, including both passenger and cargo transport. To create transportation lines for land-based vehicles, you need to first build the appropriate vehicle depot, then build stations and lay down tracks. Buses traditionally use pre-existing road networks where stops are placed, but you can also create roads exclusively for public transport vehicles such as buses, as well as priority lanes on existing roads. Once the stops and stations have been placed and connected with roads and tracks, you can create transportation lines between the stops and the stations. Stops are highlighted when placed introducing a transportation line, making them easy to find and to select. In Cities Skylines 2, the line tool is more flexible when creating lines for road-based vehicles. So when creating a bus line, you can set waypoints that control the route taken by the bus from stop to stop, allowing it to avoid busy roads or intersections. The same stops and stations can accommodate multiple lines, but the increased amount of vehicles may lead to some congestion. So waypoints can be placed while creating a line or afterwards to reroute your public transportation. Similar to train stations, harbors need to be connected to the seaways with the Seaway tool. After this, you can create ship lines traveling between the city and the outside connections or between harbors in your city. Airports are directly connected to the outside connections with Airplane Line tool. No need for any additional networks. Connect your airport to one or multiple outside connections depending on your city's needs. In Cities Skylines, each transportation option was unlocked by reaching different population milestones. This resulted in similarly built cities as each option was always unlocked at the same time, regardless of the player's need to use them or not. In Cities Skylines 2, with the exception of buses and taxis, which unlock with milestone progressions, each transportation type is unlocked using development points in the development tree for transportation. More on development points in later development of the diary. You can select which type of transportation your city needs and unlock those to serve your vision of the greatest city on earth. This is definitely a very exciting change because I know in Cities Skylines 1 with the milestone progressions, people, especially new players, well, including me that haven't played for a few years but does have almost all the DLCs, like when you unlock things at a certain milestone, it can become super overwhelming because you are unlocking so many things at the same time. Well, many things you also don't per se need at that point. So that they are going to change this in Cities Skylines 2, unlocking things with like these development points in the development tree for transportation sounds like a super good idea. And also just really love the fact that they're also taking into account that everyone was building the same type of cities in the same type of order, and this is definitely going to change the way that we're all going to play the game. Really do love this change. So now let's talk about the transportation overview. The transportation info view gathers all the pertinent information about both the passenger and the cargo traffic, which is separated into two categories. The passenger transportation data includes the number of lines present in the city as well as the number of tourists transported and the overall number of passengers transported in a month per transport type. The number of cargo lines is listed in the cargo section of the info view panel. The panel also includes the amount of cargo transported in tons per month and per transport type. Furthermore, the transportation info view highlights all the lines running in the city as well as marks all the transport vehicles with clearly visible icons, allowing you to get the full picture of where and how many vehicles are currently traveling. You can customize what is shown on the info view to easily find where a specific transport option is located. The transportation overview panel includes details of all transportation lines divided into two main categories: passenger and cargo transportation, which are further divided into transport types. The panel gives a quick overview of the most important details of each line at a single glance. Lines can be renamed, activated, and deactivated, and their identifying color changed in the overview panel. Each line's details are accessible by clicking the line details button. This opens the line panel where more adjustments can be made. The overview panel is very handy, especially when checking the line usage percentage while optimizing the different transportation types. The transportation overview can be found in the bottom menu and provides a handy overview of both your passenger and cargo lines. The line panel features information about the lines such as their length, number of stops, and current passengers, as well as their line usage percentage. A line can also be renamed in the panel, and you are able to change the vehicle models per line if alternative options are available. The line panel provides you with detailed information about the specific transport line. In the line panel, you can also fine-tune the functionality of a transportation line. For public transportation lines, the options include the ticket price, the number of vehicles running on the line, and the line's operating hours, day, night, or both day and night. For cargo lines, you are able to adjust the number of vehicles as well as the operating hours. Ticket price affects citizens' pathfinding calculations, citizens' wait time, travel comfort, and money as they choose their traveling options. And while time and comfort are important aspects in those calculations, money can sway them between public transportation and private vehicle usage. Adjusting the number of vehicles on a line is a good way to answer the changing traffic patterns as the city grows. If a line becomes extremely popular, for example, it uses percentages close to 100%, increasing the number of vehicles can alleviate the pressure and shorten passenger wait times at stops and stations, which in turn affect their pathfinding calculations as well. Adjusting the vehicle numbers per line also makes sure that the depot's fleet is used optimally and that there are enough vehicles to go around. That's all we have for you today. We hope this development diary has given you a sense of how you can integrate public and cargo transportation in your cities in Cities Skylines 2. What is your most favorite public transportation options, and are you looking forward to more control over your cargo lines? Let us know in the comments, and make sure to check back next week where we'll be covering the meat of the city, zones and signature buildings. So yes, this was a lot of information, but oh boy, am I excited about all these transportation options. And I really do like it that we now have the options to add like these depot buildings, and you're able to upgrade them for extra services and to expand buildings. For example, like the train station, you will be able to expand it with the different public transportation types. So I'm assuming that will be like a metro being connected to that train station. Going to be very excited to see how this is all going to work. In the Dev Diary video, you can also see that the subway station, for example, has like this comfort level of I think 57 out of my head, and then you will see like this upgrade type underneath it that would be like a restaurant, or at least something similar to getting food and drinks when they are going to the subway station. So that will be, I'm assuming, one of the options to be able to upgrade these subway stations to get a better comfort, to also convince your citizens to maybe take that public transportation option instead of using their own private vehicle. So definitely a very interesting topic, and obviously I'm very curious to hear what you guys all think of this new Dev Diary about public and cargo transportation. Do let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like at the video if you guys enjoyed, and subscribe of course if you haven't already. And yeah, I just really do hope to see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye guys!